to break up into two segments. First, we're going to talk about principles and how these different principles help you achieve your goal of escaping from underneath someone. And then we'll show a few specific examples of how these principles apply in different scenarios. Keep in mind that the ones that we do, like when I start showing specific examples, there's way more variations that you can do. These are just some ideas, okay? So the main thing is to get these principles down that we're talking about. And then you can be creative. You can start making up your own positions, okay? That's really the idea. There's a couple of, well, there's a drill we're going to do right now to start off with, which we're going to see later on when we start doing north-south escapes. I picked this up from the Hickson seminar that I did earlier. I think it's a really kind of a cool drill. You're going to get with a partner. Can you help me out with this one? So basically, can you stand up? He's gonna kind of come in for a knee on the stomach, but he's not going to put any weight on me. He's carrying his own weight, but he wants his knee kind of, his foot planted close to my body, okay? So he's kind of like in a front stance, if you will. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my bottom hand, go with my thumb like so, and I'm using a pendulum here. So when I'm doing my pendulum, just my hip bone is making contact with the ground, okay? I'm using my arm to start to propel myself through, and I come all the way through here. So most of the time when you guys try to pendulum and move your body side to side, you end up creating too much friction. This is going to be a good exercise to develop how to be very agile when you're underneath and making some of these spinning movements we're going to do later. At this point, he's going to continue and bring his opposite foot in. So if you just think about making a front stance, don't smush the guy with any of your body weight so you're carrying all of your weight. He's going to get his arm inside. I'm completely on my side. Look, just my hip touches the ground. I propel myself through. Okay, notice how my feet kind of stay close to the ground as well. So I'm not really like way up high here. This causes my low back to hit the floor too much. I just want to stay just with my hip bone on the floor. He steps in, right about here is good. Look how easy I swing through with minimal force. He comes again, I block, pendulum through. Okay, so what I'd like to see here is maybe two lines, and we're going to go down the floor doing the pendulum drill. Then we're going to walk back, and on the second revolution, you're going to switch, and your friend's going to get a turn to do it. Okay, let's start off with this one. What we're going to do revolve around this idea is like if you are underneath somebody, you want to not be flat on your back, and you don't want to let them like put a lot of weight on your head. If you can think in terms of those two main ideas, your life on the bottom will be much, much easier. That being said, you know, making that a reality, you know, is easier said than done sometimes, especially if the guy's, you know, equal skill, better, heavier, stronger guy. You know, we have to find some ways to make that that principle work. So we're going to cover a couple of ideas here. Warren, can you help me out? So the one that everybody always suffers with the most, I think, is the cross face. And I think what you guys have to think about is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And meaning if you start to defend the position before he ever really gets to solidify his control on you, it's going to be way easier to deal with. You let the guy completely hug your neck, start to put all his weight down on you, you know, you're going to have to use some energy to get away. You can still get away, but it's much more work. So what I'm trying to get at is like if I feel like my guard is starting to be defeated in some ways, come and get an angle freeze right here. So let's say like Warren wants to put some weight down on me. I know that no matter what position he's going to try to get on me, he needs this arm to really like make himself heavy, either by doing what, hugging my neck, or he can go to the far side and hug my shoulder and start to, you know, work this angle here. So if I allow him to get this arm into the party, it's going to be a long day at the office. All right, so like if I start to feel like he's coming around right away, I'm controlling this territory right here. This is what I want to focus on. I call this like, yeah, like praying mantis hands. Some guys call it a windshield wiper because your hands kind of slide back and forth. Okay, but basically I'm going to let Warren go ahead and get hip control, but I'm not going to let him get head control. So even though he's past my legs, he's not like murdering me right now. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first thing I want you guys to think about. All right, and from here we can do different types of movements to get our hips involved depending on how he positions his chest. He can go chest down, he can go kesikatami, he can try to reach over and go reverse kesikatami. But this is just the simple idea that I want you guys to think about. I'm kind of making a frame on his neck here and blocking here. All right? So it seems really simple, but I can't overstate the importance of this idea. He's coming around, right away I'm blocking here. All right? And then just feel like how much better it feels just as a comparison to let him hug your neck and squeeze you. You know, experiment with that and see. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but just go ahead and try that grip real fast.
So you want to start from the same?
So I don't want to be in the habit of like reaching out too much for him here, because sometimes my arms can get a little bit compromised. I can create too much of an opening for him to, exploit. So if he's not really the type of guy who's pouncing, what I would suggest is just kind of cover your head and crunch, knowing that he's going to eventually want to get that position. So see, whenever I feel bicep contact, I just roll my hands out and I reclaim that territory there. Okay? So that happens all the time, like especially if he's back kind of making posture like this. I'm just kind of like here. Bam, we fall right back into the same structure. You kind of wait on him to come in. Now, if you think about it in terms of a guy who's like punching at you, it's a smart place to put your hands anyways, It's get you better defense. And here you land in that same connection point, okay? So that's the first one you're going to do. The second one will be, if you establish this type of a grip, and he's going to realize that hugging your neck from this direction isn't possible, so what he'll try to do is stretch his arm to the opposite side of your body. See here, if I just do this, my arm starts to get kind of in a bad position. So what I want to do is, instead of follow it with this arm, I'm going to look for the web of my hand in his armpit. I'd like to think about putting my thumb in his armpit. So as he starts to stretch, I just switch to here, and I can either go on his hip or on his knee. And here I'm opening him up on the same side, and it's really hard for him to like control my hips. And here you're going to be able to shrimp and get a knee in there. Okay? So from here, if he stretches, thumb to the armpit, knee or hip. I kind of like the knee. I think it opens him up more. And then a little shrimp and get your knee inside. Okay? So let's try that. That also, while we're talking about that same principle can happen very commonly off of a failed triangle. He pulls his elbow in and he wants to turn this corner. So keeping that thumb in the armpit here kind of keeps his weight off. Okay? As opposed to, letting him just smush you. So if you can get thumb in the armpit, as he's trying to put his arm on that opposite side of your body, it's going to redirect his weight and make it a little bit easier for you to shift your hips underneath. Okay? Let's try that. This is primarily for when the guy is chest down, like chest to chest on you in some way. In each position, let's say he's got a cross face established. Okay? This is just to create some space so that I can start getting my knees in a better position, my elbows in a better position. Okay? So my arm can either be with his underhook, my underhook, or with my elbow on his neck. Those are my arm positions, okay? Actually, let me let you do this from the bottom, okay? Because my legs are a little messed up. So, what's going to happen is, you're going to make a bridge. If the person's on this side of your body, the power's coming from this leg driving into the floor, okay? You can keep this leg flat, or you could use both feet to bridge. It's a preference thing, okay? But the main thing is you're not just bridging straight up, you're kind of driving the guy's weight this direction, okay? And what that does, that alleviates his cross-face pressure momentarily and allows you to slide some other barriers in there to relieve the pressure. So if I'm here, like Warren likes to do this one. If you've ever trained with him, you know he's real good at creating this frame on your neck and getting a nice wedge in. But what makes it work is the bridge. He's flaring my head and moving my weight 45 degrees that way. Go ahead and, yeah. And then the knee slides in, okay? If I had an underhook and he was like more in my head, he's going to do the same thing, but he's going to point his finger, very much like the magic finger escape we do from the mount escape, that direction as he bridges. You see, it still kind of creates that same idea. If he was underhooked on me, he would do the same thing, but it's going to open up more of like a single leg opportunity. So he's going to make a nice high bridge at that 45, and then my leg becomes vulnerable. Okay? So we'll see later on, Todd's got a nice one that he does where he actually uses the 45 degree at the opposite side. We're going to do that later on the specific cross-face escapes. But just play around with bridging 45 degree angles and play around with the different hand positions. And the main thing is the angle to get that weight off of you.